So, vulnerability, write this down. Vulnerability is the willingness to express yourself without defenses. And I categorize 3 types of vulnerability. It's behavioral. Anybody give me an example of being behaviorally vulnerable? It's an obvious example. An example of being behaviorally vulnerable is approaching a woman you don't know. Simply walking up to her and opening your mouth makes you vulnerable. Why? Because it's an honest demonstration of your intentions and desires. Every time you walk up to a woman, you are sub-communicating to her, I want to talk to you. Which, you're opening yourself up to rejection, you're opening yourself up to embarrassment, so it's an inherently vulnerable behavior. Another example, going for the first kiss, taking her hand and holding it. All of these things are behavioral vulnerabilities. You're exposing yourself, your emotions, your intentions, and you're giving her the opportunity, or anybody the opportunity, to shame you or embarrass you for it. Second form of vulnerability is verbal or intellectual. This is sharing your thoughts, sharing your ideas, your values, your beliefs. Everybody has had the experience of you're in a group of people and you've got an idea and you want to share it with the group, or maybe you have a joke and you want to say it, but you're a little bit nervous and you're like, and you never jump in and say it, and then like 10 minutes later you're like, fuck, I should have said that. Everybody goes through that. That anxiety, that hesitance to do that, you're hesitating to make yourself vulnerable. Sharing your idea openly, you're opening yourself up to criticism, you're opening yourself up to ridicule, to shame. Therefore, it requires you to be vulnerable. This actually, this comes into play a lot, actually, in professional life. I've had a lot of guys who read my book email me or come up to me and tell me, you know, the whole vulnerability thing, I use that at work. Holy shit, my colleagues respect me now. My boss listens to me. So I was scared I used to be a yes man. I used to just agree with everything my boss said because I didn't want to expose myself or put myself in jeopardy. But now I talk more freely, I share my ideas openly, I disagree with my coworkers openly, and they all respect me now. They all listen to my opinion. And then finally, it's emotional vulnerability, which is typically the one we think of. But emotional vulnerability, it's not just about weakness. For example, my story about going off on about my ex for 20 minutes is an example of emotional vulnerability. And I got shut down because of it. That girl freaked out, and things fell apart, and we stopped seeing each other. But the thing is that experience, I mean, it'd be easy for somebody to look at that experience like, oh, well, Mark, you were really vulnerable about your anger and your issues, and she rejected you for it. Yeah, so it didn't work with her, but being vulnerable made me aware of where my emotions were. It made me a more conscious person. Sharing that with her, seeing her reaction, seeing how I felt, having that realization, I'm an angry dude, built my self-awareness up. It made me a more whole individual, made me more integrated. So I'll give you a few examples of vulnerability and how it can work. Kind of a simple, more superficial one, just in the case of approaching. I was in a bar in Boston. Actually, it was a restaurant. It was a restaurant and it had a bar. And there was a cute girl sitting at the bar reading a book. I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, you don't see girls sitting at a bar reading a book at like 10 o'clock at night normally. And so I did what any other guy would do. I ordered another drink and sat there for 30 minutes trying to come up with something clever to say. And finally, after about 30 minutes in a bathroom break, I finally came up with my like super cool line I was going to use. It's like, sweet, here we go. Like, swoop in. And I walk up to her. I don't remember what my line was. It was bad. It was really stupid. It was something about like a nerd in a bar. I don't know. I basically just insulted her. She looked at me like I was a cockroach. I stood there very awkwardly. And just going through my mind is like, wow, this bombed terribly. But at the last minute, like, I don't know why I did it, but she's giving me this horrible look. I'm like, I'm shot down. I should go away. But before I left, I said, you know what? I was trying to be funny. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insult you. And she's like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, I can try again if you want. I'll say something funnier. And she was like, no, you don't have to. I'm like, how about I just introduce myself? And she's like, that's a good place to start. I'm like, okay, I'm Mark. She's like, hi, I'm whoever. And that experience really got me thinking. It's like, wow, under my previous paradigm, I would have chalked that up to just getting shot down. I would have sat there, I would have thought, I didn't perform well enough, my line wasn't funny enough, my body language wasn't alpha enough, or whatever. But as soon as I threw that all away, and I was like, hey, that was a douchey thing to say, can I try again? She kind of laughed and was like, yeah, sure. As soon as I was open and honest and like acknowledged my insecurity and acknowledged why I was speaking to her, which, by the way, girls always know why you're talking to them. As soon as I acknowledged that, she responded in kind. As soon as I went to being open and authentic, she responded by being open and authentic. When I approached her by being douchey and performing, she responded by being douchey and performing. Like, That's one example. I had a friend, he was an intern of mine, and he told me a cool story about, he said after he read my book and discovered the whole vulnerability thing, he said he got really excited. And he said that he got excited to actually like crash and burn with girls, because he got excited because it gave him a chance to be more vulnerable. I was like, okay. But he had a couple cool stories. He said that he would go to like a bar and he'd approach girls, and then when he got shut down, he would say, okay, it was nice meeting you. Like, I'll leave you alone now, but can I ask you an honest question? And the girl would say, yeah, sure. Say, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'd like to meet a really cute girl like you, and I'm trying to get better at this. Like, what would you recommend that I do better? And the girls would be like, oh, well, here, sit down. Let me tell you what you should be doing. And they'd like sit down with them. And next thing you know, he's sitting there having drinks, and he's made friends with like 6 new girls. And they're like, no, go talk to her. Go talk. Tell her shoes are pretty. And he's like, oh, okay. And like he goes, and like he said it was amazing. Like just things that were normally he saw as rejections. He said, yeah, of course, I didn't sleep with them. But who cares? Like, I had a great night. I learned a lot. Had a lot of laughs with cool people. Had a bunch of pretty girls trying to help me out. Like, how could it get better than that? When I really started discovering this stuff and how powerful this stuff was, it was funny. I actually started to kind of screw up my coaching business because, I used to take on coaching clients. I do like a weekend or like 3 days. I take them out to bars and clubs and malls, and we'd go out and we'd meet girls together and approach together, and I give them advice on things they said and how they're screwing up. And after I kind of caught on to this vulnerability stuff, and I started becoming cognizant of all the performance and all the overcompensating things, I started to realize that a lot of stuff I had been teaching was just intellectualization. It was just more defense mechanisms. I started bringing guys out. It was funny because most of my clients, the whole time I coached, most of my clients, professionally successful, super smart, anywhere from decent looking to really good looking. Like on paper, they were awesome guys. Like 9 out of 10 of them, on paper, like any girl would want to date them. Yet they just like crashed and burned terribly. And I started to notice they're performing all the time. They are like scared, they're anxious as hell. They're not authentic. They're unwilling to be vulnerable. So I tried an experiment for about a month. I'd go out, say I had 3 nights with them. First night I'd kind of do a normal coaching thing. Second night I'd say, okay, let's try something else. I'm going to go out tonight. I want you to forget everything you've ever read, every tactic, every whatever. I want you to just walk up to a girl, hottest girl in the place, and I want you to pretend like she's just another person. I want you to just be like the most boring, normal, honest guy. Just be like, hi, my name is John. I wanted to meet you. What do you do for work? Where are you from? Oh, that's cool. I'm an accountant. I said, just do that. Just talk. See what happens. And usually, to my amazement, they go and do this, and it was the night before when they were doing all the performance stuff. Maybe they'd get like a cool reaction or make them laugh really hard, but within 2 minutes, they were kind of done, and they were coming back and analyzing what they did wrong. When I told them to go be normal and just speak normally and like don't worry about it, don't be anxious, don't try to hide yourself, just say like, hi, this is my name, how are you? It was ridiculous. Suddenly they're hanging out with them for 10, 15 minutes, they're meeting their friends, they're like getting shots together, they're inviting me over, they're introducing them to other people in the bar. And like, sure, there wasn't this huge like spark of attraction or whatever. But like, just the immediate difference in anxiety level and confidence level and just simple reactions. Like, these guys actually, a number of my clients actually started to get angry at me. Like, they were like, dude, I've been reading this shit for 2 years. I've spent $5,000 on products. And you come out here and you tell me to say, hi, what do you do for a living? And like, it works. And the truth of the matter is if you're not looking for a response, if you approach them with an authentic energy and you meet their energy, it works. Because that's what people are looking for. Everybody is in the market for an honest expression of somebody else. It's something that we all value. It's something that we all see as high status. And so when you're able to provide that, it's a rare and special thing. Well, let's get a little deeper. I had another client who I did like phone consultations with. And he called me up and he said, I've got a problem. I'm doing well with women, like I'm getting dates. He was an older guy, he was interested in a serious long-term relationship. He said, I'm doing well, I'm getting dates, but it's weird. Like second or third date, we start talking about our past, we start talking about our lives. And see, I was an alcoholic for about 6 years. And that whole period of my life was just a mess. I was a mess. I really don't like talking about it because I've scared girls off in the past, and I don't want to deal with it. So, but it gets awkward because they can sense that I'm not talking about something. There's basically this huge gap in my 20s that I won't talk about. And so it creates, like, they get suspicious. They start wondering what's up. So I started talking to him, and I told him, I said, look, any woman you end up with, if you're going to end up with a serious relationship, it's going to be with a woman who's okay with your past, right? He said, yes. And so you might as well get it out of the way as soon as possible. I said, okay. I said, now, we all know what an alcoholic is. We all have assumptions and connotations of what an alcoholic is. A lot of them are bad. I said, why don't you don't talk about the label, don't talk about alcoholism or being an alcoholic. Talk about what those experiences meant to you. And we spent the rest of the call, and he talked about, basically it taught him a lot of things. It taught him how much his family cared about him and how much he had taken them for granted. It taught him how to respect himself, taught him how to be responsible, all of these experiences that he went through. And I told him to focus on those things. So talk about the things you gained from it, the lessons you learned, how it made you a better person today. And so he did. And he was upfront about it. He was honest about it. And he emailed me a few months later, and he's like, man, it's like, I got to tell you, first of all, not only is it fine, not only are they okay with it, he said, but dude, when I start talking about it, I had no idea. Like, everybody has a friend or a family member who had some sort of addiction or went through some sort of problem. He said, I start talking about that experience, and then suddenly, like, these women start, like, telling me about all these fucked up experiences from their past. He said, I haven't had dates this powerful and meaningful in my entire life. Just the ability for him to go first allowed the women to open up. And that's kind of the amazing thing, right? Like, earlier today, we all went through and wrote down our insecurities. But here's the thing. Everybody has an insecurity around other people. And we are all trying to hide it. And when we all hide it, we all kind of assume that we're kind of the only ones that has it. And so you end up with this weird, like, it's like there's a form of poker called blind man's bluff, where, like, nobody can see your card, or you're the only one who can't see your own card. It's like we all walk around thinking, like, nobody can see our insecurity, whereas, like, really, we're the only one who can't see our insecurity. Everybody else is insecure. And the only thing that makes it okay to talk about it is when somebody else talks about it first. It's the only time we ever get comfortable. And so when you're the one who's willing to talk about it first, boom, suddenly it implies it's a very, very valuable trait. It's something we're all looking for. We're all looking for connection. We're all looking for somebody who's comfortable with our insecurities, who will understand us, who won't judge us. And when you are willing to be vulnerable and express your insecurities or fucked up things in your past or how you learned from them, suddenly it makes the people around you comfortable with theirs. Last example I'll give you. Because another criticism I get sometimes, guys say, oh, vulnerability, that's great, intimacy, you know, it creates connections with other people. That's nice. I just want to fuck. So what does this have to do with me? Well, this is the beauty of it. Behavioral vulnerability. Being vulnerable, it implies a lot of things. To be vulnerable, it's counterintuitive, but to be vulnerable, when you're basically comfortable with putting yourself out there and opening yourself up to any sort of rejection whatsoever, what does that actually signify? Confidence. It signifies strength. It signifies status. This guy is comfortable expressing any aspect of himself at any moment to anybody. And is as confident as you can get.